a bright, shining voice. It's great to have you with us. Now, we are having some technical issues today, so for the moment, you're not going to be able to hear on YouTube. You're not going to be able to hear everything that I hear. I apologize for that, but it can't be helped. We're doing the best we can. But in the meantime, my friends, it's December the 7th, 2017. I think we've established that. And, of course, December 7th, a date that lives in infamy, the day the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Now, for some people out there that are not familiar with world history, first of all, what the hell is wrong with you people? You should know this. December 7th, the day that Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, which was the singular thing that drew us into World War II. But December 7th, 2017 is a date that will live as yet another triumph for honor and the American way. Because this is the day that Al Franken resigned in disgrace from the United States Senate. Al Franken is not a classy human being. Al Franken is not what I would consider a good drinking buddy. Al Franken had every opportunity. He really did. He had every opportunity to, first of all, to fess up to what he did, which he never really did. And secondly, as he's headed out the door in disgrace, he's shaking his fist and talking about how Donald Trump and Judge Roy Moore are the real bad guys. That Donald Trump and Judge Roy Moore are the ones that really belong in the Hooskow for their terrible treatment of women. Yep, it boggles my mind that people like Al Franken ever got elected in the first place. I mean, it's an outright disgrace that they got arrested or elected. It seems like a lot of things have been forgotten. Much has been forgotten about what the Democrats are really famous for. And the way that Al Franken chose to exit stage left today was a disgrace. It really was. He leaves with no dignity whatsoever. He leaves with truly perhaps the most corrupt politician that we have seen in a long time. Literally, his car was filled with boxes of ballots. Boxes of ballots. And and nobody does anything about it. Nobody. Not anybody. The Secretary of State of the state of Minnesota signed off on a fraudulent election in 2016. And Al Franken chose to behave himself in leaving the Senate the same way that he's behaved himself throughout his entire adult life. An arrogant, impudent, and unrecalcitrant moron. Hey, why don't you go ahead and make jokes about this now, Al Franken? Why not make some jokes about this now, Al Franken, if you're such a funny guy? Why not share with us what it was that you really wanted to say today?
A couple months ago, I felt that we had entered an important moment in the history of this country. We were finally beginning to listen to women.
Oh, good God. Oh, my God. No, he didn't. We were finally beginning to listen to women. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know how slimy Al Franken really is? To even dare to present himself as a champion of women. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, and you look at the shit-eating grin on his face. This man does not care about women. He doesn't care about anything but serving his corrupt narrative. Listen to this.
About the ways in which men's actions affect them.
Oh, my God. Do you hear any recalcitrance at all? Do you hear any sincerity whatsoever?
The moment was long overdue.
Oh, good Lord. The moment was long overdue.
I was excited for that conversation and hopeful that it would result in real change that made life better for women all across the country and in every part of our society.
Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is so deluded, so narcissistic. The fact that he would even dare to use those words. Boy, if this doesn't show you the picture of a serial abuser and a hypocrite on the highest degree.
Then the conversation turned to me. Over the last few weeks, a number of women have come forward to talk about how they felt my actions had affected them. I was shocked. I was upset. But in responding to their claims, I also wanted to be respectful of that broader conversation.
Which is why you continued to deny that you did anything wrong, Al? Just what the hell is this guy's problem? For him to try and rewrite what he has said and done in the last several weeks, it exposes not only Al Franken, but all of the Democrats that stood in support of him.
Because all women deserve to be heard and their experiences taken seriously. I think that was the right thing to do. I also think it gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that sentence, the disgraced former Senator Al Franken is basically claiming, hey, all those bitches are lying. I never did any of it.
Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently.
Yeah. You see what he's doing here? You see what he's doing here? Even in his moment of disgrace, he is shaking his fist at these women that were victimized by him. Absolutely no regret, no remorse, no recalcitrance, no humility, no honesty.
I said at the outset that the Ethics Committee was the right venue for these allegations to be heard and investigated and evaluated on their merits, that I was prepared to cooperate fully, and that I was confident in the outcome. You know, an important part of the conversation we've been having the last few months has been about how men abuse their power and privilege to hurt women.
Yep. And you, sir, are one of them. You know, when you talk about men in the plural, well, that might mean a lot of things. But why don't you just admit that it was you, Mr. Franken, that abused your position of power? Why not admit that it was you, Mr. Franken, that committed aggressive acts against women that were unwelcome, and yet you persisted in your lecherous behavior?
I am proud that during my time in the Senate, I have used my power to be a champion of women.
Really? What about Leanne Tweeden? Were you using your power to be a champion of Leanne Tweeden? Were you? Were you using your power to be a champion of Leanne Tweeden when she spoke out about the events of 2006 on a USO tour, where not only did you try to stick your tongue down her throat forcefully against her will, you then went out of your way while flying home from the USO mission, waiting until the woman was asleep to have a photographer document your own support of women's rights everywhere, right? Is that what you're doing, Al?
And that I've earned a reputation as someone who respects the women I work alongside every day.
Really? Like Nancy Pelosi? Like the rest of the senators? The dozen senators, including Claire McCaskill and others, asking you to step down because of your behavior, because of what you did to women, Al?
I know there's been a very different picture of me painted over the last few weeks.
No, it wasn't painted, Al. The picture, all it was is it was exposed. The picture was a film, Al. It was an actual photograph, Al. It wasn't painted by anybody but yourself, you son of a bitch.
But I know who I really am.
Yeah, and the rest of the world does too. We all just found out who you really are. Do you hear any kind of real apology here at all?
Serving in the United States Senate has been the great honor of my life.
Really? And that's why you chose to act so honorably, Al?
I know in my heart that nothing I have done as a senator, nothing, has brought this honor on this institution.
Is that a fact? You know, Al, it's funny. You Democrats are all the same. You think that you should be allowed to fill out your own report card. Yet, isn't that the thing about Democrats? They always try and fill out their own report cards instead of allowing their constituents, their colleagues, and the people that worked around them and under them to paint the real picture.
And I am confident that the Ethics Committee would agree.
Nope. You're so out of touch, Mr. Franken. You are so completely out of touch. If have you ever actually studied the meaning of the word apologize?
Nevertheless, today I am announcing that in the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate.
Wow. That took 3 minutes and 11 seconds. 3 minutes and 11 seconds of filling out his own report card, only to mention that in the next few weeks, he'll be resigning from the Senate.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Here's the thing about Al Franken. The actual behavior is demonstrated by Al Franken and caught on film. The actual behavior of Al Franken. The actual behavior of Al Franken is the only behavior that matters right now. Now, if he's going to talk about President Trump and the fact that the president used some colorful language when he was being recorded without his knowledge when he was speaking with Billy Bush about, 11 or 12 years ago? Was there a woman actually groped in this scenario, Al? No.
Girls.
Was there really actually a woman groped by Donald Trump?
But this decision is not about me.
Yeah, it's all about you, you piece of shit. Al Franken. This decision is all about you. And nobody else. It's not about Roy Moore. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about you, Al Franken, and the women that you have victimized throughout your adult life. The women you have victimized throughout your adult life. You trying to deflect, like Democrats always do, from taking personal responsibility for your own ridiculous, outrageous, misogynistic behavior.
About the people of Minnesota.
It's about the people of Minnesota. Is that a fact? The people of Minnesota, now, as far as I'm concerned, they got what they voted for in Al Franken. They got a disgraceful, classless, unintelligent, and unfunny senator. That's what they voted for in Minnesota. The fact that you are leaving office is not so much a favor to the people of Minnesota as it's a favor to the United States of America and to women everywhere.
It's become clear that I can't both pursue the Ethics Committee process and at the same time remain an effective senator for them. Let me be clear. I may be resigning my seat, but I am not giving up my voice. I will continue to stand up for the things I believe in as a citizen and as an activist.
Oh, really? You're going to continue to write books about people like Rush Limbaugh, saying that he's a big, fat idiot? Is that what you're going to do, Mr. Franken? You're going to write a book about Donald Trump. Maybe you'll write a book about Judge Roy Moore. Maybe you'll write a book about anybody and everybody except yourself. Because if you wrote a book about yourself, I don't think it would sell too well, Al. But rather than taking personal responsibility for what you did to these women, what you're basically doing right now is you are mooning the entire nation. And your voice, Mr. Franken, is something that the American people are sick and tired of, to be honest. As it was said so effectively in the song Sail On by the Commodores, you know, it ain't so hard to say, would you please just go away?
But Minnesotans deserve a senator who can focus with all her energy on addressing the challenges they face.
Oh, did you catch that? Minnesotans deserve a senator who can focus with all her energy. Did you catch that, ladies and gentlemen? It's kind of like the final insult to the intelligence of every man, woman, and child in the United States.
Every day. There is a big part of me that will always regret having to walk away from this job with so much work left to be done.
A big part of you going to regret the prestige of being a United States Senator and the position it puts you in as far as enriching your own personal wealth. But notice, he doesn't express any regret for the way that he treated these women.
But I have faith that the work will continue because I have faith in the people who have helped me do it. I have faith in the dedicated, funny, selfless, brilliant young men and women on my staff.
Oh, is that a fact? You do know, Mr. Franken, then your staff is going to be going away too. Your staff is going to be going away too. They have to leave in disgrace just like you. I don't think I've ever seen a more scumbag, sleazy individual within the halls of Congress ever.
They have so much more to contribute to our country. And I hope that, as disappointed as they may feel today, everyone who has worked for me knows how much I admire and respect them.
Yeah. Yeah, you admire them all right when they're walking away from you. As far as the amount of respect you have for them, maybe you should have had a little more respect for Leanne Tweeden.
I have faith in my colleagues, especially my senior senator, Amy Klobuchar. I would not have been able to do this job without her guidance and wisdom. And I have faith, or at least hope, that members of this Senate will find the political courage necessary to keep asking the tough questions, hold this administration accountable, and stand up for the truth.
Al Franken talking about standing up for the truth. Boy, I tell you what, folks, I can't stomach any more of this man. Can you? Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Just amazing that this man would dare to talk about standing up for the truth. Now, as I said, we've had some technical difficulties with the YouTube feed today. For those of you that are listening, I mean, you can hear my voice, but when I go to play commercials and such, you're going to hear nothing. I just wanted to make sure you know that. Those of you listening on jjmccartney.com's audio player or at redstatetalkradio.com, never fear. We're going to take a commercial timeout, then we'll be right back with more. This is the J.J. McCartney Show. And by the way, stick around. We have one of our good friends is going to be with us in hour number 2. That's my friend in Texas. His name is David Oliver. And he'll be joining us at 5 minutes after the top of the hour. So until then, we're going to get into some of the other day's news. We'll talk about the California wildfires. We'll talk about many other things going on. More news than you can shake a stick at is coming up on the other end of the break. Stay with us. All right, we are back. We're back on this Thursday, the 7th day of December. Yep. I tell you what, folks, I'm still in disbelief. I really am in disbelief at the manner with which Al Franken has chosen to embarrass the people of Minnesota. I mean, it is really, it's stunning. The manner with which Al Franken has chosen to embarrass the people of Minnesota and to absolutely disgrace the office that he was elected to. And then to make absolutely no kind of mea culpa about his own personal behavior. Now, and by the way, we're doing everything we can to get the audio issues fixed. My apologies to those of you that have been watching and not hearing anything during the break on the YouTube channel. Doing everything we can to get it fixed. And once we do, I assure you, we'll make every effort to make sure that you hear what I hear, and you don't have to sit around twiddling your thumbs for the next hour and a half. We are here to try and give you the absolute best program that we possibly can. And we've got some time to kill here, so we're going to jump into some of the news headlines. And there's so much going on. The California wildfires. The folks in Los Angeles today, many areas of Los Angeles, there have been hundreds of homes destroyed by fires in Ventura County, Los Angeles County, and 82 square miles have gone up in flames. And they've been driven by hurricane force Santa Ana winds. Sure doesn't help. They're doing everything they can to fight these wildfires. And I got to tell you, folks, there are people out there saying that war is inevitable with North Korea. This according to Reuters. So we take a look at the latest headlines. And the annual U.S.-South Korean Vigilant Ace exercises feature 230 aircraft, including some of the most advanced United States stealth weaponry. They come a week after North Korea tested its most powerful intercontinental ballistic missile, which it says can reach all of the United States. North Korea's foreign ministry blamed the drills and confrontational warmongering by U.S. officials for making war inevitable. The remaining question now is, when will the war break out? It said in a statement carried by North Korea's official KCNA news agency, saying, "We do not wish for a war, but shall not hide from it." China, North Korea's neighbor and lone major ally, again urged calm and said war was not the answer, while Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said North Korea wanted direct talks with the United States to seek guarantees on its security, something Moscow was ready to facilitate, saying, "We hope all relevant parties can maintain calm and restraint and take steps to alleviate tensions and not provoke each other." Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang said, "The outbreak of war is not in any side's interest. The ones that will suffer the most are ordinary people." Lavrov said he had passed on Pyongyang's desire for direct talks to the United States Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, when the two met on the sidelines of a conference in Vienna on Thursday, saying, "We know that North Korea wants above all to talk to the United States about guarantees for its security. We are ready to support that, said Lavrov. We are ready to take part in facilitating such negotiations. That according to the Interfax news agency. Well, Washington has said it remains open to talks if North Korea demonstrates it's serious about giving up its nuclear weapons, but that its recent activities showed it was not. China's Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Zheng Zhiguang, was to meet Matt Pottinger, the head of Asian Affairs at the White House's National Security Council on Thursday, to discuss North Korea and trade, according to a senior U.S. official. Tensions have risen markedly in recent months after repeated North Korean missile tests in defiance of UN sanctions and the detonation of what Pyongyang said was a hydrogen bomb on September 3rd. North Korea's latest missile test prompted a U.S. warning that North Korea's leadership would be utterly destroyed if war were to break out. U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter jets stand at the ready. As a matter of fact, they've been practicing a lot in the exercise called Vigilant Ace. Well, yesterday, a U.S. B-1B bomber flew from the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam to join the exercises with South Korea. They'll run until tomorrow. In September, B-1B bombers were among a formation of U.S. military aircraft that flew further along North Korea's coast than at any time in the past 17 years, prompting Pyongyang's foreign minister to warn that U.S. bombers could be shot down even if they did not enter North Korean airspace. Yang Uk, a senior fellow at the Korea Defense and Security Forum, said that while B-1Bs carried no nuclear weapons, they would be key to any strike targeting major North Korean facilities. B-1B bombers have been regularly dispatched to the Korean Peninsula over the past years. However, it seems that the U.S. Air Force might have enhanced its training to better prepare for actual warfare. Said that's why North Korea has been making such a big deal when B-1B bombers are flying overhead. Now, both sides insist they don't want war, but blame each other for provocations while saying they will act to defend themselves. U.S. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said at the weekend summit that the possibility of war with North Korea was increasing every day. He said Trump was prepared to take action against North Korea, but was working to convince China and Russia and other nations to put more pressure on Pyongyang to get it to give up its weapons programs. Now, U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on Sunday urged the Pentagon to start moving U.S. military dependents out of South Korea, saying conflict with North Korea was getting close. The Pentagon said it has no intent to move out any dependents. North Korea's foreign ministry spokesman accused high-level U.S. politicians of showing alarming signs by making bellicose remarks one after another. These confrontational warmongering remarks cannot be interpreted in any other way but as a warning to us to be prepared for war on the Korean Peninsula. A Russian lawmaker who met North Korean ambassador to Russia said today that Pyongyang did not want to escalate tensions, but did not fear war. That according to Interfax. North Korea regularly threatens to destroy South Korea and the United States and says its weapons programs are necessary to counter U.S. aggression. The United States stations 28,500 troops in the South, a legacy of the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. The rising tensions coincide with a rare visit to North Korea by United Nations Political Affairs Chief Jeffrey Feltman this week. the highest level UN official to visit North Korea since 2012. Some analysts and diplomats hope that his visit could spark a UN-led effort to diffuse rising tensions. Feltman met North Korean Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho on Thursday, following a meeting with the Vice Foreign Minister on Wednesday. So this is what's going on. While the North continues to try and develop nuclear warheads for its intercontinental ballistic missiles, against all the UN sanctions and all the UN rules that have been published and passed by the United Nations Security Council and others, the North Korean government, led by the fat man, Rocket Man Kim Jong-un, is acting with impunity and making ridiculous threats about destroying South Korea and the United States. And then they accuse us of being the ones that are warmongering. Meanwhile, half a world away, the United States is asking Israel to temper its response to the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as its capital because Washington expects a backlash and is weighing the potential threat to U.S. facilities and people. That, according to a State Department document, the document says, while I recognize that you will publicly welcome this news, I ask that you restrain your official response. The document dated December 6th said in talking points for diplomats at the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv to convey to Israeli officials. The document said, we expect there to be resistance to this news in the Middle East and around the world. We are still judging the impact this decision will have on U.S. facilities and personnel overseas, the document says. A second State Department document seen by Reuters was also dated December 6th, said the agency had formed an internal task force to track worldwide developments following the U.S. decision on Jerusalem. A U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity said it was standard to set up a task force anytime there is a concern about the safety and security of U.S. government personnel or U.S. citizens. The State Department had no immediate comment on either document. Now, President Trump reversed a decades-old U.S. policy by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. According to Reuters, this imperils Middle East peace efforts. But really? When people are shouting death to America and threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, does it really suggest that Middle East peace talks are really going anywhere? Now, the first document also laid out talking points for officials at the U.S. Consulate General in Jerusalem, the U.S. embassies in London, Paris, Berlin, and Rome, and the U.S. mission to the European Union in Brussels. In its message for the European capitals, the document asked European officials to argue that Trump's decision did not prejudge so-called final status issues that Israel and the Palestinians need to hammer out in any peace agreement. Quote, you are in a key position to influence international reaction to this announcement, and we are asking you to amplify the reality that Jerusalem is still a final status issue between Israelis and Palestinians, and that the parties must resolve the dimensions of Israel's sovereignty in Jerusalem during their negotiations. You know that this is a unique administration. It makes bold moves, but it is bold moves that are going to be needed if peace efforts are finally going to be successful. The status of Jerusalem, home to sites holy to the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian religions. It's one of the biggest obstacles to reaching an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal. These people really think there's ever going to be peace between the thuggery of the Palestinian state, such as it is, and Israel. I mean, all they're doing in negotiating, constantly, the only thing that they're doing, the Muslims are they're just buying time. They have absolutely no intention of keeping an agreement. Any agreement that non-Muslims negotiate with Muslims is not worth the paper that it's printed on. There is not one agreement that the Muslims will ever honor with the West. It simply won't happen. Israel considers Jerusalem its eternal and indivisible capital, and wants all embassies based there. Palestinians want the capital of an independent state of their own to be in the city's eastern sector, which Israel captured in the 1967 Middle East War and annexed in a move never recognized internationally. Well, so what? You win it in the war, and it's yours. Meanwhile, Hamas calls for Palestinian uprising over Trump's Jerusalem plan. The Islamic group Hamas, the Islamic terrorist group Hamas, urged Palestinians to abandon peace efforts and launch a new uprising against Israel. Well, what do you know? Palestinian factions called for a day of rage tomorrow. And earlier today, a wave of protests in the West Bank and Gaza produced clashes between Palestinians and Israeli troops. At least 31 people were wounded by Israeli gunfire and rubber bullets. The Israeli military said late today that 2 rockets had been fired toward Israel from the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. But the 2 rockets did not cross into Israeli territory. A jihadist Salafi group in Gaza called the Al-Tawhid Brigades, which does not heed the call from the enclave's dominant force, Hamas, to desist from firing rockets, claimed responsibility for the launches. The military said it was reinforcing troops in the occupied West Bank. Medics said 11 people had been hit by live bullets and 20 by rubber bullets in the Thursday unrest. 1 was listed in critical condition. Some protesters threw rocks at soldiers, and others chanted, "Death to America, death to the fool, Trump." Now, Trump, as we mentioned earlier, has reversed the position taken by other administrations for decades by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The status of Jerusalem, home to sites considered holy to the Muslims, Jews, and Christians, obviously, it's to me, it is what Israel says it is. Because there is no other sovereign power there. And this idea that, you're supposed to give up, you're just supposed to give up a territory if the prevailing winds are blowing that way from the people that want to wipe you off the face of the earth. Seriously. Folks, going to take a quick break. Back with more in a minute on the J.J. McCartney Show for this Thursday, the 7th day of December. More to come on the J.J. McCartney Show in just a minute.
If you agree with JJ's conservative pillars for rescuing America's economy, stay tuned for more. If you are a liberal and think everything is okay, you can go pet your unicorn now.
What was my wow? I've been so fortunate. I was at the Brandenburg Gate the night the wall came down.
My name is Tommy Flanagan, and I'm a member of Pathological Liars Anonymous. In fact, I'm the president of that organization. Yeah, that's who I am.
There are now reports that he actually arrived the day after the wall came down, not the night of.
I didn't always lie. No, I used to tell the truth. But then one day I told a lie and I got away with it. Yeah.
Williams' predecessor, Tom Brokaw, was the only American anchorman to report live from the scene on that historic day.
I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire.
And then, if you can believe, a miniature tidal wave came along.
This controversy will be what Brian Williams will be remembered for.
So if you're out there listening and you want to stop your habit of lying, just give us a call. Because we have meetings now every week at my house in Jamaica.
Today, nearly half our nation's fighting forces are members of the Guard and Reserve. When they are called to active duty, they leave behind a family, a community, and a job. Employer support of the Guard and Reserve, a Department of Defense agency, honors and protects the bond between service members and their civilian employers. Whether serving our country or supporting those who do, we all serve. To learn more about ESGR, call 1-800-336-4590 or visit esgr.mil.
The J.J. McCartney Show. Captain Eric Lawrence was training Afghan soldiers when his truck was hit by an IED.
I was on the way from Kandahar to Kalat, hit an IED that just took the truck and threw it up in the air and slammed it on the ground. I knew at first that I got hurt pretty bad because I couldn't move my legs. I sat home alone for months. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to go back to work. I was hesitant at first, because I didn't work for a good year. I want to be a productive person. I don't want to be a drain on society. I want to be a positive thing in society. PVA helped me write my resume, got me a job interview. I got the job.
Helping veterans like Eric is what we've done for over 65 years. Paralyzed Veterans of America, paving access for veterans' employment through Operation PAVE. For more information, visit pva.org. A public service message from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
When you look at the way the House of Representatives has been run, it has been run like a plantation, and you know what I'm talking about. I am sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and you disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic, and we should stand up and say, we are Americans and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
I remember landing under sniper fire. We just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles.
Problem is, that's not what happened. And we should know, CBS News accompanied the First Lady and daughter Chelsea on that Bosnia trip. A reminder that in politics, memory should always match the videotape.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
There isn't any evidence that anybody gave me any favorable treatment.
Look at all the skullduggery in the Clinton administration. All roads lead back to Hillary, back to Hillary, back to Hillary.
Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us on this, Thursday. I can't believe it's Thursday. I can't believe it's December the 7th. I know, that's a lot of non-believing I'm doing there, but it's true. I mean, I'm just amazed at how this year has flown. Amazed at the manner with which this first year of President Trump's administration has literally been a blur. It really has. And he has gotten so much done. This is the thing. That, the left, they'll never give him credit, but it's amazing what Donald Trump has been able to accomplish in this last year. Truly amazing. All right, folks, we have got a full another hour to bring your way on the J.J. McCartney Show. Next hour, my good friend David Oliver will join the conversation. We'll talk about, whatever's on his mind, quite honestly. The latest news and, the accomplishments of Donald Trump. So much to talk about. Hour number 2 with David Oliver coming up after the top of our break. Don't you go away, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back on the J.J. McCartney Show, the Thursday edition. Hour number 2 up next. In the 21st century, the world is proving to be a crazy place. And we here at the J.J. McCartney Show are doing our best to battle the insanity with the one thing that can set things right. the truth. We trust in God Almighty, and we speak the truth without shame or hesitation. The truth is divine. It belongs to God, and it wavers for no man. Fact: America's government today is far more tyrannical and oppressive than the government of King George III when our founders declared independence and won the Revolutionary War. Taxation in America today is beyond massive, and our founding fathers would be appalled to see what has happened in America in the past 100 years. Fact: America will not recover from its failing economy, nor will it fend off hostile enemies until America turns back to God and repents of its wickedness. The remedy for all our problems must begin with the humble prayers of Americans and true remorse and repentance for the sins America has embraced. In a phrase, America needs to turn back to God instead of turning its back on God. Tune into the J.J. McCartney Show every weekday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, where you will hear truth and where we will not pull any punches when it comes to the machinations of evil in our midst today. People of today have become a godless bunch. The government decided that we must take God out of the classroom and instead teach evolution and institutionalize godlessness in our educational halls.
Out of the teaching of godlessness, the teaching of evolution, the teaching our children, generations of children, that they're nothing more than souped-up monkeys, out of teaching that for generations comes this mindset that there is no accountability, there is no eternal purpose, there is no eternal accountability. So therefore, we can rip a baby out of a mother's womb while at the same time protecting an eagle's egg.
People want to be left alone in their sin. They don't want to be reminded of their own mortality. They just want to live in the moment, pleasuring their flesh. That's what is wrong with America today, and it's what's been wrong with the human race since Eve took a bite of that apple.
The ability to instantly communicate our thoughts, our feelings, to send pictures, pornography, trash, filth, slander, gossip, lies, and even false reports about school shoot. We can do that instantly now, and so the darkness of man's heart is now magnified.
Yes, it is.
It's on steroids.
It's very likely that that instantaneous communication is what's going to lead to the beginning of World War III or some other apocalyptic event. Terrorism has become much more prolific with the advent of all this modern communication. Not saying that they wouldn't have done it if they only had sticks and stones. We live in an instantaneous world now. Well, and if you or I say something that somebody at the NSA doesn't like, they could have us picked up in 5 or 10 minutes. Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, in address, gave Congress a statement today, speaking before Congress, told lawmakers on Capitol Hill that the president definitely has the legal right to use his executive authorities to enact gun control, and that Congress itself had previously given him that ability, clarifying points of President Obama's recently announced executive actions on firearms. Lynch said it was all consistent with the Constitution and laws passed by Congress. The Gun Control Act lists the people who are not allowed to have firearms, such as felons, domestic abusers, and others, to make sure guns stay out of the wrong hands. She underscored, quote, "The actions announced by the president, which focus on background checks and keeping guns out of the wrong hands, are fully consistent with the laws passed by Congress." Republicans on the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee did not agree. The American people are fearful that President Obama is eager to strip them of their Second Amendment rights. Let me be clear, the Second Amendment is not a suggestion. Now, where have I heard that before? The J.J. McCartney Show, weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern at jmccartney.com. The following is a Nightside Radio Studios production.
From the wind-powered Nightside Radio Studios,
tear down this wall.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
It's this man. It's the compassion. It's the dignity. It's the wisdom. It's the horse sense of the guy.
Did you know that 65% of the people murdered in the last 10 years were killed by handguns?
Would it make you feel any better, little girl, if they was pushed out of windows?
The American people have seen the truth, and they can see through your lies. There's coming a day when publications such as yours turn into nothing more than flea market advertising. They'll be handing it out for free in grocery store parking lots under everybody's windshield wiper. Yeah, that's the future for the Washington Post and the New York Times and every other liberal publication in this country. We are not going to tolerate your bull anymore. None of it. The American people are fed up. I thought we made that clear on November 8th, but apparently you people in the media just don't get it. A new chapter in American history begins now.
It is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
We are a team.
They said it couldn't be done.
Together we will lead our party back to the White House.
He said it must be done.
Beginning on January 20th, we cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, welcome everybody. It is oh so good to have you with us today on the J.J. McCartney Show. Thanks for being with us. Folks, could not be more excited about our guest in this hour. It's our good friend from the Lone Star State. David Oliver is with us. We'll talk with David about, well, just about anything that crosses his mind. It's going to be fantastic, folks, and you don't want to miss a minute of it. Coming up next on the J.J. McCartney Show. Don't go away. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, and let me say welcome to my friend, my brother in arms, Mr. David Oliver. Hello, David. David? David, are you with me? Okay, well, I thought that was him. Let me try this. Gonna jump over here. Okay, then. Who knows? Who knows? You know, I should have said to myself, anything's possible today. Anything is possible today. Let me take a look at my audio settings just so we can make sure. I think everything's working, but I don't see David. Okay. I mean, I have somebody on Skype with me. I don't know who they are, but let me just try this. I'm going to close that down, and then I'm going to find. Let's try. There we go. Area code 210. I know that's David. Hello, David.
You know that's me. Hey. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties, but we got it sorted out.
Well, good. I'm glad about it. Now, if you hear your voice in the background in an echoey way, I apologize, but I have to have some way for the audience to hear you because we had some technical issues today with literally no time to troubleshoot. So we've had to do a few things, including some chewing gum, some duct tape, and some baling wire so that people can actually hear what you have to say. Because if I'm just sitting here talking to myself, yeah, that's probably not the best thing. David, welcome. I want to ask.
Thank you. First, I have to apologize to you because, we all have a duty. First of all, as you know, we all have a duty as Christians, and one is to support, our brothers and sisters. And this is not really about politics. This is really about a war that's going on and the takeover of our country by Satan, and that's really what is happening.
It really is. Now,
they can call it what they want, But that's really what is actually happening. And for those non-believers, they can say what they want to say, but like he says, "Thy will be done." God's will be done, and you'll be standing in front of Him anyway. So.
Absolutely, David. I want to ask you a question right out of the chute. 4.5 years ago, when we were having conversations about starting a radio show, did you ever, in your wildest imaginations, think that 4.5 years later, that we would be sitting here talking about President Donald Trump?
No, I have to tell you that, but I knew something was going to give, though. I did know something was going to give, because at some point, American people get tired of being lied to. Any people, any group of people, you lie to them enough, they get tired of it, and they'll make some kind of change. And one of those things that I guess you and I blatantly saw, and that a lot of other people that wanted to know and that educated themselves found out, and that's that, regardless of what the news tells you, which was one of Adolf Hitler's best tools was propaganda in his media, be it pamphlets out the bottom of bombers or radio, Berlin. He used that to further his cause, and that's the same thing that's been going on in the Obama administration during that time. And if you look back at it now, I have one thing to say to anybody who's a doubter. I'm going to give you 8 things that I want you to take, and I want you to match up with me. If I'm a liar, then I'll be a liar, but facts are facts. You can bring your own opinion, but you can't bring your own facts. And that's just the way it is in life. There are the 8 things that you must do in order, and you're going to like this one. This is right up your alley, JJ. I know you're going to like this one. These are the 8 things, the 8 levels of control that must be obtained in order to create a social state.
Yes.
And this is straight out of the book of Rules for Radicals. And you know what the number one thing is on the top of that list? You probably know it, but most of those folks out there don't. And just in case people don't know what Rules for Radicals, what this book is about, it was written by a man named Saul David Alinsky. And he was born in 1909, died in 1972. And he was an American community organizer and writer. He's considered the founder, basically, of socialism. But he wrote this book called Rules for Radicals. And what it is the Rules for Radicals is a book, and he details the 8 levels of control that must be obtained in order to create a social state. And the first is the most important on that list. And the first on that list is health care.
Yes.
Tell me what we had the first year that Barack Obama was inaugurated in as president.
Yep. And that health care, and this is the amazing thing. If you were to read the book, it is the number one thing. But the thing is, you can't have the number one thing until you've also got number 2 nailed down. And you look down that list, it's amazing. The way it goes, the way they go about it, and I want you to continue, because I think that there are enough people out there that will benefit from this, that everybody needs to write these down, and make sure that you know what the enemy is up to.
Well, you got to remember this now. Now, there are several ways to create poverty, and it isn't just by taking away jobs; it's by destroying the means for them to exist. Okay, so three of the biggest money-making entities that we have, or industries in this country, one is oil. What happened to oil? Suddenly we had an oil refinery blow up in the Gulf, which we've had oil spills all over the place. No one ever shut the oil industry down around the coast of America.
Exactly.
Just because of that, but Obama did.
It wasn't constitutional. And, federal judges kept telling you don't have the authority to do this. And so he would just write a different order.
Right. So, number 2, behind that, you had him, since he took over the healthcare industry, he took over insurance. Right?
Right.
Those are the only 2 he had to worry about, because the Democrats made sure that they torpedoed the real estate industry before he got into office. Right?
Yep. They sure did. They sure did.
I'm a real estate appraiser, okay? So I know exactly when these
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
We came in 2008, and that's exactly when everything was tanking in the real estate industry, and it was on a major decline. So if you start looking at that's what creates the number 2 on the list, or helps to create, and that's poverty.
Yes.
You got to have poverty. That's the thing that you got to have. You got to create poverty, okay? Because people are easier to control when they can't fend for themselves, or when they're reliant on the government or the father. And that's why Adolf Hitler used to call it the fatherland.
Yes.
Right? Okay? So, because they want to replace the father in the household with the father that's the head of the state, or the father that's the head of the country. Because they want you to look to him for everything, and we'll get on looking to him for everything, because we know who you and I look to everything for. But we're going to get back to that, so I don't want to.
That's right. That's right.
Number 3 on the list, and I'm going to go through this number 3. Now, this is something that you should be able to see, and everybody that, and even Stevie Wonder saw this before most people. And I'm being facetious because that's a joke, and Stevie Wonder has a sense of humor, which I'm sure he does. Number 3 on the list is debt. You have to increase the debt to an unsustainable level, right?
Yes.
And that's what taxes have to increase. And when taxes increase, it produces more poverty.
It does. And what it does is it stifles the economy, kills jobs, as we've seen. And but these are all machinations that have been put in place to expedite the poverty, to expedite the debt. And the biggest factor in creating this huge debt was the creation of the Federal Reserve, over 100 years ago.
Right. Now, don't get me sidetracked, because I'm going to make a statement about the Federal Reserve as soon as we get through with our 8 topics on this list here.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. So, the unsustainable debt, like I said, you got to create more poverty. You got to get. There's more giveaways now from the government than there ever was, because, in other words, instead of create more debt, the term I like to use is break the bank.
Yes.
That's what people do in a soft coup.
That's right.
Break the bank. Because if you drive the country to poverty, then the people inside that country will have no more recourse than to go with whatever government you want to change us to. Okay?
Yep.
So that's the goal there, okay? So anyway, number 4 on the list, and I'm sure everyone in the country knows about this one, it's gun control.
Wow. Yep. How do you...
You have to remove the ability for the citizens to be able to defend themselves from the government.
That's how you make your power permanent. Yeah.
Because what they do is they can't protect themselves from in a police state. You see.
Yep.
In a police state, the country, the police and the government are the only ones that have guns.
That's right.
So you can't protect yourself. So that's why they've been attacking gun control. They've been loosing all these nut jobs from one end of the country to the other, letting them do all these simulated terrorist acts, so they can use it as an excuse to take away guns.
Yep.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that most of you out there are smarter than this. You have to stop letting the television, which has already been proven to be lying. Even as far back as America bombing Cambodia and lying about it.
Yes, the Gulf of Tonkin. Yep.
Come on, let's face up to it. There are criminals that are running our government. There are criminals that are running our government, you guys. And we need to face up to it. It's not a pretty thing, but we need to face up to it. That's why we're reading down this list right now, because we've allowed them to do these things. Number 5 on the list, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives. Food, housing, and income. When poverty expands, guess what people get on?
Yes. Government help.
And to feed your kids, I'm going to say this, forgive me, you would eat your way through the sewage system to save your kids if you had to. And they know this. So when they control the food that you and your kids and the sustenance for your family,
yep.
When they control that, they control you.
Yep, sobering thought, and it's absolutely true. You know, David, I'm just writing a few things down here to mention after we get through the list, because there are some things that really figure big into the entire equation. So let's move ahead. Tell us what's next on the list.
Number 6 on the list is education. Okay, so you notice how years ago in the 60s we had, prayer removed from the schools. Marge was, I think, murdered by our own people. The well-known atheist that had, contested the prayer in schools.
Yes.
60s had it removed.
Right.
I bet she was doing a lot of praying about the time that her own people murdered her because they thought she had a lot of money, and that's how her end came. But
Are you talking about Madeline Murray O'Hare?
Yeah. Madeline was murdered. She was murdered by her own people.
Isn't that just sad?
No, the Lord lets you have whatever it is you want. He loves you enough to give it to you.
Right. Exactly right.
He loves you enough to give it to you because He's given us every opportunity and given us instruction and shown us time and time again. Yet we fall for it, and it's just like the Lord has told us before. Just like a I guess you want to, how would you say, a wayward wife. Every time he turns his back, we're running off with some other lover.
Yeah.
Some other religion, some following somebody else, doing whatever. But anyway, welfare, education, and the education thing is really, that's the deep-rooted thing, because you have a group of children now that have grown up without some of the background on this country, what it stands for, and the Constitution, and a lot of other things that they should have, but they don't have it. So if you don't have it, you don't know that you're missing it, and if you're not used to missing it, or if you're not used to having it, you won't miss it when they take it away.
Yeah.
Because things, this is coming down the road. That's why you prep these kids. That's why Hitler had his juking. That Hitler's juking is Hitler's youth.
Right.
And so he started teaching them the way he wanted to teach them, and to believe in the fatherland rather than to believe in their parents. And that's what's going on now. Believe in me, because I'm going to give you your way, because that's what society is about now.
Yeah. It's leech.
You can have your way. You can have everything. It used to be majority rules, but it doesn't. It's not the way it is. It's special interest.
Yeah, and so the most evil way that they've done this, it's the insipid way that they have seeped this idea into the education system that encourages children to basically rat out their parents if their parents are thinking in a way that is counter to the narrative of the people in charge.
Exactly. And on top of that, what you're doing again is you're making the government or the governmental entity the parent and not the parent in the house.
Right. Exactly right.
You're going back to the fatherland thing here.
And so it would naturally dovetail that they would attack traditional marriage and all of the other Judeo-Christian principles that we are founded on.
But marriage was attacked a long time ago when it came in the form of child support and some other things.
Yes.
Alimony, all the bastardization of God's union. Okay?
Yes.
Remember this. Everything is, like I said before, to begin this conversation, at the beginning of my time on this show, I said this is not about politics. It's about God's will. And
that's right.
Satan trying to thwart that will. That's a tough one to get out.
Yes, it is.
That's what it's about. And if you look at it, he tries to bastardize every institution that God has.
And and it's obvious too. I mean, the way that this has taken place, we have seen not only the attack on fathers, the attack on traditional marriage, but what we're seeing now is that they have opened up Pandora's box by creating this thing called gender identity. Now, what they are doing now is the most cruel and vicious and inhumane thing that you could possibly do to children as young as 3 and 4 years old, or younger in some cases.
Yes, I agree.
That is outrageous. It really is. I mean, you talk about child abuse.
But when you have, now here it is, when you have the government doing it, see, since they're the father, they can get away with it. You see what I'm saying? Because we've given them that power. We've slept it.
Yeah.
See, because all the stuff that's happening, all we have to do is go look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones that allowed it in.
And truly, David, this requires some soul searching on the part of men out there that sired offspring, but then had nothing to do with them. The problem in America is that we have men that refuse to be men.
That's true too, but that's not the total answer to that problem.
Right.
That answer comes in parts, and there are many parts to this, and there's not one big group. It's not just the guys that go out there and sleep with women, because where did they learn that from? They learned it from the society that's promoting it.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
They learned it from the society that's promoting it, and those things are the things that we allowed in. Okay? Here we go back. It's the parental structure is responsible for whatever's led into the generation behind them.
Right. Right.
I mean, call it what you will. If you want to say soul searching, let's start. Let's be truthful, brother.
That's right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because all it takes for evil to succeed is what?
For good men to do nothing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And speaking of which, let's go to number 7. Because number 7 on the list, which should be number 1, actually it should be the reigning, the number 1 thing, the reigning thing above and beyond everything. And that is to remove, that's religion is what we're talking about, remove the belief in God from government and schools.
Right, right. And this...
That's when you have what's called the abomination of desolation.
Right, absolutely.
You take God off the throne as the authority and the one who decides right and wrong and the moral standard, and we put us up there instead of him. We remove him and put us up there.
That's right.
And when that happens, now, correct me if I'm wrong, the Lord says in several places in the Bible, I'm not one to go quoting, scripture by book and verse and that type of thing, but I know what I have read. And I know that the Lord says that, when you sin, I will chastise you.
Yes.
I will chastise you as a person when you sin. But when you sin as a nation, I will destroy you.
Yep. And
what we've done is we have let the media, which is George Soros' buddies, and we know all about George Soros, Hitler's little right-hand man.
Uh-huh. That's right.
When you let, When you let the media start pumping what has been pumping out for about the last 15 years into American society, because the dumping is unlike no other in the last 10, 15 years of the type of things that are allowed on the television, in media, and the media being taken over by new owners. And that's the thing that people don't realize. There are people like George Soros that have bought the media because what is he? He's a protege of Adolf Hitler, who used what? Media to take over Nazi Germany.
Yep.
Even to the point, now I want people to think about this, even to the point where Adolf Hitler knew that the election was getting close about the time before he was elected chancellor. So you know what he did?
Uh-huh. Burned down the Third Reich. Yeah, the Reichstag. Right?
He bombed his own headquarters.
Yep, that's that.
And then turned around and told the people, this is why you got to elect me, to keep you safe from those people.
The false flag attack, part 1.
Sounds like the Patriot Act, doesn't it?
It certainly does. In Operation Northwoods.
Fly 2 planes into a building.
Yep.
Call it a terrorist attack, and I can get you to give up all your rights.
And, if people say, well, the government surely would never do that, well, study Operation Northwoods and what they were trying to do to get us into a war that would have us go into Cuba with false pretenses. They said, let's take a couple of passenger planes and, we can either load them up with people or they can, just supposedly be loaded up with people, shoot them down, claim Cuba did it, and then we're right in the thick of things. And obviously JFK didn't like that plan, and he didn't like a lot of the things that the NSA and the CIA were suggesting. And so what happened to JFK? Well, he was given time off.
Hold on.
Right?
You're opening something. We haven't got to number 8 yet.
All right.
I want to tag on to that. So don't let go of JFK because we got to get to that.
Right.
So, number 8, the final issue, or final item on the list is class warfare. So you have to divide the people into the wealthy and the poor. That causes disconnect. Basically, what it does is it makes the government gives the government more ammo to tax the wealthy even more to bring them down to the level of the people that are in poverty eventually.
Well, at the same time, fanning the flames with groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all these others, to where you have anarchy in the streets. It leads to anarchy.
And I have one question for you on the Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
If Black Lives Matter, how come they're not in Chicago marching down the street where I don't know how many Negroes get killed every weekend?
Yes. We've contended this countless times. And the other thing is if Black Lives Matter, then why do we not see thousands or hundreds of thousands of people marching on abortion clinics built in black neighborhoods all around the country?
Yeah, and the liquor stores.
Yep.
And the pawn shops that they take people's money from, and the welfare money that they probably confiscate too. Because that's all that's used for. But that's about educating the culture that lives there too.
Yes.
It's about the people who own those businesses.
That's right.
Let's not put that on them. Okay.
Exactly.
Anyway, the class warfare. You already have that with NFL and the players that play in the NFL and all these elite people like the actors and actresses and that kind of thing. That's already going on. That's going on already.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're liberal, that's usually the case because they've been indoctrinated into a system. So now they're going to go with that system that feeds them or gives them the millions of dollars, and so they're going to back that. It's very funny that people don't notice the hypocrisy that's going on with these entities. For example, I believe either the NFL or the NBA has a policy or a campaign on bullying. Yet both of them have bullied states and laws into being changed.
Yes. Yeah. I got to ask an honest question. Do you think we're going to have an NFL in the year 2030?
I really don't care.
No, but no. The reason I ask the question is because that's the way that the politically correct winds are blowing. What they're trying to do is they're trying to intimidate every sports league into adopting the most leftist policies possible. And I know a lot of people don't care about the NFL, and I don't either anymore. But when I look at what it used to be and what it is now, and how they have kowtowed to the left, it makes you wonder if we're ever if it's going to even exist in another 10 years or so, because all the information about concussions and all these other things, and people are trying to act as though the players don't know the risks when they go out there on the field.
Well, JJ, I'm going to tell you this. I know this sounds kind of my focus, and this is something else too. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not really too interested in what goes on. I don't even own a TV and haven't for 15 years. Okay.
Right.
I get on selective news shows and I pick out the news that I want. I don't watch CNN, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, any of that trash, because that's all that is. That's just trash. That's not reporting. That's trash. That's programming, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to program you to the way that the country wants you to believe.
Right.
And we already know what that is.
Yes.
So I pick out what I watch. I like sports. Don't get me wrong. I watch, and like I said, if the NFL's not here in 2030, well, I don't really care. And that's coming from a Minnesota Viking fan.
Oh wow.
I'm telling you that right now.
Your guys are 10-2 right now. You got to be very excited about them.
We're 10-2, and if I'm standing before the Lord, that means what?
Well, it means either they're playing bad teams or they've gotten a little bit better themselves, or a combination of both.
I'm just saying that.
But in the grand scheme of things, right.
Well, yeah. And I go before the Lord, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? So in 2030, if they're not around, so what? There'll be something else.
Yeah, exactly right.
There'll be something else, And quite frankly, I doubt that will happen. I think what you'll find is that people will get tired of those whiners. Just like the White House and the Capitol Hill is being cleaned out right now.
Yep.
You're going to find the same thing's going to happen to some of these corporations because they're going to have to change to survive. You notice how suddenly the NFL's gotten real nicey about all the veterans we have all of a sudden because they were bending down on one knee and they found out that 35% of their sales, 33% of their sales went down.
Yep, and they're still paying the price for that, by the way. People are not forgetting this. Yeah.
Remember, you and I was on a show that you had a few months back, and I mentioned this to you. No matter what anybody says, they can argue it till they're blue in the face, and they'll just be practicing because they don't have any fact or anything else to base it off of.
Right.
But I do. Because one thing I have learned, I have a book that sits next to me. It's spelled B-I-B-L-E.
Yep.
And this book says that anything that has his name on it, he's going to come for it sooner or later.
That's right.
You start messing with it.
That's right. You know,
And you can notice in this book that every time something belongs to him and you defile it,
yes. That's right. Absolutely right. You know, speaking of that, I met a guy, it's probably been 27 years ago. He was an amazing fellow. He was involved in really, really violent drug-related crime. We're talking drug lords, warlords, murder for hire, this kind of thing. And then he was converted in prison. He was an amazing guy. His name was David Story. And I have lost track of him, and I regret that greatly, but I'll never forget the interview I did with him. And his testimony was so powerful that you just couldn't shut him up. You just had to let him give it all because it was so powerful. And the one thing he said to people is he's holding the Bible in his hands, and he says, listen, the sign of a well-read Bible is the sign of a well-fed soul. And it's so true. And where are children going to learn about Bibles? Where are they going to learn about God's Word and God's love and God's plan for their life if not from the parent? Where is it going to come from? And this is why it's so important that we share it with people. And, you know, David, I'm not a perfect person, and I don't know any, to my knowledge. But I know this. If you are, if you walk in obedience to God and you allow Him to use you as a conduit for His love and His Spirit and His peace and His mercy and all of these things, then it's amazing the things that He will do, the doors that He will open. And I truly, truly believe that if we would, as parents, assert a certain amount of authority over our children with regard to what they spend their free time doing, and if we would drum it into their heads that there's only one thing that's important, and that is what they do with Jesus Christ. There's nothing else in life that matters. Nothing. And what we have done is we have allowed this country and this nation to just completely forget what made America the envy of the world. And why America... No.
Corporations did not make us, or did not make this country, and corporations cannot break this country.
That's right.
It was made in God we trust.
That's right. America was blessed by God.
Now, I will tell you this. The Bible that I have, this Bible's over 20 years old. Looks kind of worn.
Yep.
Has a bunch of tabs in it from places that I mark in it, things that I want to read and remember and read over again. This book was given to me by a lady named Brenda Dwyer, who was a friend of ours. And she gave this to me when she was in rehab for a cocaine addiction.
Wow.
One of the greatest gifts that I've ever been given by anyone. And I thank her to this day. And I don't know where she's at, much like lost track of the gentleman that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Story. I don't know where she's at, but God bless
yeah.
her.
I believe that there's going to be a lot of reunions in heaven that, where the time and the distance is suddenly erased by the power and the majesty and the grace of our Lord and people that you've forgotten about altogether, or people that you've lost track with. We're all going to be in one grand mansion singing praises. And
all I can say is that I don't know about anything else, but I sure hope the Lord rewards her for giving me this book.
Well, David, I think also that you add to her reward with every day that you live your life the way you live it. And that, you know, this is the most, and I've tried to drum this into the minds of people that listen to this show, is that, you know, walking in obedience to God on a daily basis is a liberating thing. It really is. When you are no longer a slave to the things that the world tells you are important, and instead all you're doing is you are just communing with God and letting him live, letting him get, you know, I mean, Christ is alive in us. And this is the thing that some people, you know, they tend to confuse things. The thing I tell people, and it truly, you know, we know that God is on the throne, and that Jesus is at his right hand, petitioning him on our behalf every day. And people are.
When you say petitioning him,
yes.
Can I say something to interject in there?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why, and for those that don't understand why Jesus is petitioning on our behalf, is because he is the one that can see fallibility. God is a perfect being, therefore cannot look upon sin, nor can he see what's going on.
That's right.
He uses people as a conduit to be able to see these things and interpret what's going on, basically, and so that he can be informed of who we are, how we are, and petition on our behalf, because he's been through it.
And I want to make sure people are not confused about one other thing, because this is something that I think sometimes people can stumble on if they don't know the word real well. And it has to do with the idea, you know, you're supposed to try the spirits. We're instructed to try the spirits to see if they're of God, because there are certain things that the Holy Spirit will not allow unbelievers to give utterance to. And it's really amazing. It really is. Every time that I've tried the spirit of somebody that is coming and saying, oh, this, that, or the other, trying to teach false doctrine or what have you, and you try the spirit and you say, do you believe that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh? What does that mean? Well, what it means is this, that the very same body that Jesus walked the earth with, the very same body that was crucified, the very same body that has the scars, you know, the nail scars on the hands and the feet, the very same body that, you know, the side was pierced, that body, David, is alive today. It's glorified, but it's alive today. There is a fleshly body, and Jesus is alive in that flesh. And people, for whatever reason, they have trouble wrapping their brain around it.
Well, just so that people understand that when we say God is a perfect being, he is perfection incarnate. There is nothing that is more perfect. He is the definition of perfection, and even greater so than our minds can comprehend. So when we say that, here's the example. Remember, in the Bible, like I said, I don't remember, I'm not one to go quoting verses or whatnot, but on the third day, Jesus rose to heaven, right?
Yes.
After the crucifixion. Well, before he could be presented to the Lord, or to God, excuse me, he had to be washed in the Holy Spirit. Remember that part. There's a part there that said that angels had to take him away to be washed in the Holy Spirit so that God could look upon him. They had to wash him in the Holy Spirit to cleanse off all his sin, because God can't even look upon perfection. That's how perfect a being he is.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, the thing is, I mean, you know, people say, well, do you really believe all this? You know, and they act as though, you know, it's all some fairy tale. You know, there is absolute proof that Jesus Christ walked the earth. Absolute proof that, you know, the accounts of the Gospels have been proven over the years, archaeologists and people that have lived in these regions for a long time, they don't understand. Well, they say, well, the Bible was written by men. No. The Bible was published by men, but it wasn't written by men. And when you, well, yeah, exactly right. And do these people honestly think that God would allow men to corrupt His holy word?
But see, JJ, there's the point in it all. People don't honestly think.
Right. And
I want to tail in something before we get too far gone on it, because I know we're on the list of the 8 rules for radicals, and we were at the end. We did the class warfare, which was number 8. I'm not trying to run your show or anything.
No, you're fine. Go right ahead.
I wanted to make sure that I got this in. So wrapping that up, I wanted to point out a couple of things about this rules for radicals and why I brought this up. Saul Alinsky was a lifelong mentor of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And
yes.
When you read the handbook for overthrowing the government and implementing socialism, if you still refuse to believe that that's not true, you're either lying to yourself, you're a total idiot, excuse me, I'm sorry for saying that, or you're a collaborator.
Right.
I'm sorry. That's the truth of the matter. All you have to do is read that book. Folks, I hope you enlighten yourself and stop letting the TV educate you. Educate yourself.
That's right.
No one's any smarter than you are. It's just ignorance. It's just a lack of information. That's all it is.
You know what my dad and many other people of his generation called the TV?
Yeah, the boob tube.
The boob tube. Absolutely right. Now, my dad, we're coming up on the 33rd anniversary of me losing my dad in 10 days, or actually 8 days now. And, it was a devastating day for me. I mean, it really was. There was I was 22 when my dad passed. And, my dad was not a biblical scholar, but he was blessed with a kind of wisdom that many people don't choose to acknowledge because it goes against their own personal narratives. My dad was anything but perfect, and he would have been the first to tell you that. But his generation, the generation that fought in wars, the generation that built so much of the industrialized world and that brought America from the horse and buggy to modern supersonic jets and all the other stuff, the technological advances in communication and just the way the world changed during his lifetime. I don't think people realize how industrious that generation was, because
they were industrious because they came from nothing, so they saw what nothing was. And
exactly.
That gives people the wherewithal to want to work harder and want to build something. I want to touch on something before you get off the air here, because you went to a place that I'm telling you went to the JFK thing.
Yes.
When you mentioned them, I'm going to tell you something straight up. What you mentioned about his assassination was not the reason why he was assassinated.
The real reason he was assassinated, I believe, had to do with a couple of different things.
Well, the reason why he was assassinated, and I'm going to tell you this straight up, 4 months before he was assassinated, he signed into law the disbanding of the Fed.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing.
The disbanding of the Fed.
Right.
And 7 days before he was assassinated, he was quoted as saying, "There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child.
You're right.
Before I leave the high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot." 7 days later, he was assassinated. Ladies and gentlemen, the news lies to you.
That's right. He mentioned
sometimes your king can be killed on television, and the back end of his head gets blown out.
Yep.
Last time I checked, little hole going in,
big hole coming out. That's right. That's right.
Everybody that tells you different, they're trying to change fact. You
Yep.
can't bring your own facts.
Nope.
But you can bring your own opinion.
I'll tell you this. He also mentioned in that speech, the secret societies and the cabals that try to run things from invisible places where nobody realizes who's really pulling the strings. John F. Kennedy was not a perfect man by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly had integrity when it came to how this country was going to be governed. And I really, truly believe that if he were alive today with the mind that he had back then, he would certainly be a conservative.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
There's
no two ways about it.
But we could do 5 whole shows on the JFK assassination. We really could.
We don't want to get started down that road, but I will say this, and I have to as a Christian. It's not too late for anyone that hears this, that has a chance to get on their knees, ask the Lord to be saved and to come into their life and to accept Jesus Christ as their personal Savior. Anyone can do that.
That's right.
Just like anyone can be enlightened.
That's right. That's right.
The Bible. Anyone can become one of God's tools, just like any of us can.
Yeah, you get anybody that's. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I'm just going to end it with getting it like the pastor did at my sister's funeral. He said, "Choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, but as for me and my house,
yeah,
we will serve the Lord."
That's right.
Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. That one I do know.
And here's something I want to pass to you, David, because I think this is very powerful. There are a lot of people out there that are steeped in one sin or another, or a combination of sin, and after a while, they live their life by routine. You get into a routine. You do the same thing every day, and the question you need to ask yourself is, look at your life, and honestly look at the sin that's in your life, and then ask yourself, why do I do the things that I do? And I think what you will find is that in most cases, nobody can really explain why they do the things they do. The fact of the matter is, when you are on autopilot, you have given somebody else the controls over your mind and your brain and your body and your spirit.
Remember what we said to begin with. Remember what I told you about having a TV.
Yes.
My focus is on the Lord.
That's right.
Focus on me is what he says.
Yes.
The time. You cannot be focused on him, wondering about what the ladies are talking about on The View, nor what CNN is putting up about Trump. And who cares about all that? Because God's will is going to be done eventually anyway.
That's right. That's right. And here's the other thing. Why do you think they're called TV programs? Why do you think they're called programs? Because you're being programmed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's as simple as that. David, you know what, David? It's been way, way, way too long since we've talked, and this has just been such a tremendous blessing. It's been a great show. I thank you so much. I cannot tell you what it means to talk with you, and the feedback I'm getting from everybody is, why don't you have him on more often?
It's totally my privilege. As your friend, I am honored to be a part of anything that you do. As my Christian brother, I will always applaud you and I will always support you. And anytime you would like to have me on, you just let me know. As long as I have time, I'll be here. And, like anything else, if I don't have time, I'm sure the Lord will make time.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? Always the same way. Anytime you ever need me, I'm only a phone call away or an email away or whatever else. You just reach out, man. I'm here for you. I love you as a brother. And 4.5 years ago, I never imagined that we'd be where we are today. And I'm very thankful that God allowed us to come together, because there's nothing better than a brother in Christ. Really. It's amazing.
I'll tell you what, just to show you how God works, 4.5 years ago, you were on my show.
Right. Exactly right. Yep. And it seems like just yesterday. It really does. But folks,
I can't believe that. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, those mile markers, they go flying by. They really do.
Yeah, my hair goes flying off.
That's right. Right there with you. I'm right there with you. Oh, gosh.
Hey, brother, you take care of yourself. And, like I said, we'll do this again. I'll give you a holler in a couple of weeks or so.
You got it, David. Thank you. God bless, my friend.
God bless you as well, and God bless your show.
Thank you.
Take care. Merry Christmas to you, and to everybody out there listening. Look, there's an answer to everything. There's one book you got to go to.
That's all.
5 letters in it. Bible.
That's right.
If you need one, get a hold of JJ Show. I'll give him the money to send you one.
That's right. We'll do whatever it takes. David, God bless you, my friend.
God bless you, man.
Take care.
Take care of yourself.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. That's David Oliver in San Antonio, Texas. And just a really great friend. And it's really uplifting to visit with him. And, it's something that we've needed to do for a very long time. And trust me, we will do it again very soon. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This has been just a real thrill and a blessing. And I certainly hope that all of you will stick around. We have got so much more to come in the days, the weeks, the months to come, however long God gives us to spread the good news and to keep an eye on things. Because there's a lot of deception going on all the time. The deception is everywhere. In the mainstream news media, you cannot trust anything that you hear in the mainstream news media today. And that's not hyperbole. That is not overgeneralizing. The mainstream media is nothing but a tool of godlessness. It is a tool of mind control. It is trying to keep all of the mice in the maze. You know what I'm saying? Don't allow the news media to define your boundaries. Don't allow the godless political system to define the boundaries of where you go and what you do and what you say and how you act. Be the owner of your own mind. That's the only way that you're going to find your way to the truth in this world. Truly. Now, friends, I want to tell you, there is plenty more to come in the days, weeks, and months that will follow. We have tried very hard on this program to just completely focus on the truth. But why do we do what we do? We do it because God instructed us to. Every day, walk in obedience to Him. If you'll do that, then you'll be amazed at what happens in your own lives, your own hearts, your own families. And the thing is, God puts us all here for a finite number of days. None of us will live forever, except for those of us that are washed in the blood of Jesus Christ, redeemed by Him, and made joint heirs with Him. Thanks to David Oliver for being with us today. Thanks to all of you. We'll be back tomorrow on the program. The mysterious Colonel will be with us Monday on the show. It'll be the one and only Arc Midnight host, John B. Wells, will be our guest on Monday. All right, my friends, as I look outside and I see some high clouds moving in, I look at the thermometer and I see that it's definitely coming up on winter. The sign of the seasons. See the season we're living in today. If you want to find out more, stay tuned. We'll tell you more tomorrow. All right, my friends, be good to yourselves, and if you possibly can, be good to someone else. And remember, we'll win in the end because there are more of us than there are of them. Because God is with us. And because we are all in this thing together. Have a great rest of your Thursday. See you on Friday. Until then, God bless everybody. So long.